Very briefly, Phyl Lobl is a singer-songwriter of great repute and renown based in Sydney. And some years ago, she wrote a musical piece about the great Australian suffragists. Suffragists in Australia, suffragettes in England. We all know about the Pankhurst sisters and the great things they did. We know nothing about the Australian women and the men who supported them, but fought for the vote for Australian women, which is, after all, one of the most fundamental human rights that we enjoy. Phyl wrote the piece. It made its way to Queensland, was given to Merv Langford from Magda Community Artz, which is a great local theatre and performance group. Looked at it and said, yes, love to do this, love to do it as a full theatrical production. With Phil's permission, I adapted it for the stage, and we've done 2 full productions, one last year, a couple this year, one of them at the local AFL club at Chelmer, which is a great place to take activist women. We have for you today a very, very small pocket version of Dames and Daredevils for democracy. It is available. We're performers for hire. There are leaflets on the table outside if you'd like to get it into your school, because it's a great piece of educational history. Please give us a yarn. All the contact numbers are on there. But and Birmingham, our music director, and I and the cast have, I think we've made something that's fairly good out of Phil's magnificent work. So just a little version focusing on the 2 Queensland women that are in the show of Dames, Devils, for Democracy.
Queensland Premier, proposed a bill that all Queensland adults should have the vote. But men who had fathered 2 or more legitimate children would have 2 votes. And women are supposed to be the illogical sex. His bill never got up. I'd claim some credit for that, because I campaigned against it. And some credit must belong to my father, a Chartist, who influenced me to be a rebel against the social order. In England, as a child, I would accompany him to meetings 16 miles from home, walking. It's just as well I was brought up tough. When their father died, my 4 children were supported by me in Manchester. I was sewing for 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. After migrating to Australia and the death of my second husband, I married Andrew Miller and became Emma Miller. After years of campaigning, I was known as Old Mother Miller. Australian suffragist. I was proud of my title, the grand old Labour woman of Queensland. Yes. My motto was a paraphrase of Robert Paine's The Rights of Man. The world is my country, to do good is my religion. In 1890, I helped to form a female workers' union, mainly of tailoresses. And in 1891, I marched with shearers' strike prisoners and was jailed. When released, I travelled west, organising for the Australian Workers' Union. By 1902, we women had the federal vote, but could not vote in Queensland state elections. Shy. I fought for equal pay and equal opportunity for women. My militant activism was most apparent on Black Friday of the 1912 strikes in Brisbane. I led a large contingent of women to Parliament House, braving the batons of foot and mounted police. Police Commissioner Cahill was mounted on his thoroughbred, which reared up right in front of me. Cahill had his baton raised, and I felt so enraged and frightened that I pulled the hat pin from my hat and I thrust. I wish I'd got him, but I got the horse. Cahill was thrown and injured. I never meant that to happen, but I confess I was more sorry for the horse than for the commissioner. Men in uniform. My hatred of militarism caused me to take an energetic part in the anti-conscription campaigns as president of the Queensland branch of the Women's Peace Army. If women had not had the vote, what would have been the result of the conscription referendum?
Old Mother Miller with her big black hat on, more than a match for a copper with a baton. Born a rebel, born to win, but don't trust her with a long hat pin. Old Mother Miller with a big black hat on, more than a match for a copper with a baton. Born a rebel with a big black hat on, old Mother Miller with a big black hat on, more than a match for a copper with a baton. Born a rebel, born to win, but don't trust her with a long hat pin. Old Mother Miller with a big black hat on, more than a match for a copper with a baton. Born a rebel, born to win, but don't trust her with a long hat pin.
Don't trust me with a long hat pin.
No woman can do more than her little bit, often falling far short of intention. But it has been my privilege to have worked with some of the finest women in Queensland, and the support and the development that attended our efforts was and is due to their loyalty, their self-sacrifice, without which no sure foundation can be laid. I'm Margaret Ogg, and I'm a Queenslander. Comments were thrown at me as along with rotten fruit. Oh yes, I was mercilessly heckled from one public meeting to another, not only by spontaneous individuals, but also by hired gangs. Fortunately, I had developed a bit of a repartee for such things. I credit the honing of this particular skill to the position I held as Superintendent of Mission to Sailors, in support of my father, a Presbyterian minister. Yes, my conservative upbringing instilled in me the idea of public service. I was homeschooled, taught to dress for dinner, and to play the viola. Things I began to think of as mere frippery once Tasmanian women had won state voting rights in 1903. And we women of Queensland, well, we had none of these things. I became more involved in social change and the women's movement in Queensland. I set out to win the minds of Queensland country women. I was often barred from halls and refused public transport, so I toured the country in my own horse and sulky, sometimes with a companion, but always with a trio of kerosene lamps to light my street meetings. Yes, my idea of touring for votes was taken up in Britain. Yes, I also edited the women's section of the United Brazier, and I wrote poems under the name of Anne Dante. Out in the bush, here where for centuries the bushbirds sang, and out on the hills the natives hunted game, a rude beginning of a township sprang. Out of a penal settlement our fathers came, worked, hoped and dared, and stoutly willed to activate this city that we build. I did not share the same political beliefs as many of my fellow Australian suffragists. Oh, no. I was a monarchist and an anti-socialist. Proof that you don't need to be uniform in beliefs to join forces to help right a universal wrong. And in 1905, Queensland women won state voting rights. I continued my work for women, and in 1913 I became a lobbyist. It was due to my lobbying efforts that the old criminal codes were rewritten to make domestic violence a criminal offence. And inheritance laws were amended so that at last women could claim a part of their husband's estate. It has been my privilege to have worked with some of the finest women, and I used to tell them, in spite of everything that you have done, there is one more thing that you must do, and that is to stand up and wave the younger generation on. Yes. I was rather delighted when a creative arts scholarship was established in my name. Well, once we'd won state voting rights, the arts no longer seemed to be mere frippery.
Who were they? The women of the South. Who were they? The ones who stood in line. Who were they? The steadfast and the brave. We should know their names, although they now have long been in the grave. There was Vida, there was Maybank, there was also Henrietta, there was Muriel, Dora, and Annette. There was Edith and Louisa, Rose and Emma too, Mary Lee, Jessie, Rook and Margaret. Who were they? The ones who fought for votes. Who were they? Wrote the articles and notes. Who were they? Who made the rallies run? We should know their names and give a vote of thanks to everyone. There was Vida, there was Maybank, there was also Henrietta, there was Muriel, Dora and Annette. There was Edith and Louisa, Rose and Emma too, Mary Lee, Jessie, Rook and Margaret. Who were they? Who raised a prison cell? Who were they? Who told their stories well? Who were they? Who carried on the works and bore the jeers of ignorant, misogynistic jerks? There was Vida, there was Maybank, there was also Henrietta, there was Muriel, Dora and Annette. There was Edith and Louisa, Rose and Emma too, Mary Lee, Jessie, Rook and Margaret. Who were they? The men who helped them stand. Who were they? The men throughout this land. Who were they? The partners and the mates of the women who were able
try cooperation. They will need determination, and it won't be a vacation. Every day they'll need to say, band together, stand together, hand together, find a way. Band together, stand together, hand together, find a way. In the vote that changed the nation, the vote for emancipation, it was women's education paved the way so we could say, band together, stand together, hand together, find a way. Band together, stand together, hand together, find a way. And now the winds across the dry plains and the falling of the monsoon rains won't change the sight of bloodstains until we say, till we all say, band together, stand together, hand together, find a way. Band together, stand together, hand together, find a way. The sudden floods and fire and stormy show the earth is slowly warming. With the future change now looming, will we say, will we all say, band together, stand together, hand together,